I had this opportunity to pray with a group of people last week with a pastor in Cuba, and he got to share with us the work that God is doing in Cuba. You know, they're starving, they have no medicine, they have no power. You know, there's all of this profound need. And in the midst of that, this Cuban pastor shared how his church plant in the last 4 years has gone from 0 people to having 300 children in their congregation. He has shared how their church planting network has gone from 200 churches to 500 churches in the last couple of years, right? And I had the privilege of praying with someone who's been a Christian for probably about a year at this prayer meeting. And afterwards, what she said to me is she said, "What are we doing wrong?" Right? And you know, it's great because when someone's not been a Christian for a long time, they haven't picked up on all of the Christian BS that we like to use, you know, like those words. Sorry, Kent, he's regretting putting me up here now, right? But we pick up all of these ways of talking about Christianity, right? And sugarcoating the reality of our country, right? And the reality of our country is that this does not happen in America. Right? And so here's this new Christian who has come in the last year to become freshly acquainted with the power and the reality and the goodness of God. And she is saying, what in the world? Why do we look nothing like this? Right? And I'm confident that when you hear about the work that God is doing in Tanzania, you will hear similar things. If you talk to any missionary, you will hear about God's power going out in profound ways. And so what is wrong with our country? Well, a lot of things, right? But one of the things that I think Satan has most insidiously weaven into our culture is the lie from Genesis chapter 3. What is that lie, right? You can be like God. Did God really say, do you really need God? And so in our culture where we are so self-reliant, where we don't need anything, right, I give into that lie all the time. Every single day that I deprioritize prayer in my life, that I say, I'm fine, I've got this, right? I am giving into that same lie. I do it all the time. Maybe you have a similar experience. And so I think it's really exciting that here we are, we're going to have people sharing the work that God is doing in Tanzania. And I find myself resonating with the request of this new Christian, which is why doesn't our world, why doesn't our churches look similar to this? Why are we not depending on God in the same way and begging him to see his power poured out? So that is the purpose of prayer meeting, right? If you read the book of Acts, you'll see that the pattern of the book of Acts, right? God's power is poured out again and again and again and again. And it is always preceded by prayer. So if you're an economist or if you like looking at the stock market like me, we talk about leading indicators, right? What is the leading indicator of a recession? Well, the leading indicator of God's power in your life, of the Holy Spirit being at work in your church, of God's revival coming to your town, right? The leading indicator, what is that? That's prayer. So we are going to hear how God is moving in Tanzania, how we can support that. And if you would like to have a taste of that here in our world, here in our town, here in your family, here in your life, the way that we do that is by praying and praying with other people. So there's a lot of opportunities to do that. You'll have one opportunity this Wednesday. But friends, let's beg God for his power, and then let's rejoice in a few minutes as we hear what he's already doing.